Good old Bloons Tower Defense. Such a classic series many people have fond memories of. Whether it be coming home and going to congregate, or opening up cool math games in the computer lab, this series was such a fun way to kill time, and heck, it even made us use our brains by figuring out which towers are worth it and where to place them. Anyways, Bloons has come a long way since its inception as a simple flash game. Throughout the years, it would get more and more complex with every release, and the series even has a couple of spin-offs to keep the popping going. Nowadays, most of the Bloons games can be played on a variety of devices, including the ability to play them on the go with our phones. However, let's go back to 2011 when only so many people had the latest phone in their pockets. How could someone play Bloons on the go? Well, there is the Bloons Tower Defense iOS port, which is a faithful port of Bloons Tower Defense 3 for iPhones, released in 2009, and it is a pretty good version of the Flash game. But what about the other popular mobile devices at the time, such as the PSP and DS? Well, join me as we open these ports wide open and discuss some of their differences and similarities. First of all, Bloons Tower Defense PSP is an enhanced port of the game, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's just talk about the basics first. Instead of using a mouse to click and drop towers, players use the controls of the PSP to pop those helium-filled villains. All they have to do is press the L button, then select a tower from the menu that pops up, and place it down with the D-pad and X button. The cursor can also be slowed down by pressing square for a more accurate tower placement. If the player wants to upgrade a tower, they simply click on it, then navigate to the desired upgrade, and hit X. Okay, with the breakdown out of the way, what are some of the differences between the PSP port and the Flash version? First of all, the maps had to be stretched out to 16:9, since the original game had an aspect ratio of 4:3, so some of the paths are longer than they were in the Flash version. This helps with accommodating with having to use spikes for when things get out of control, especially considering how easy it is to place them with mouse on the PC, but not so easy on the D-pad of the handheld. Secondly, the PSP has exclusive maps that aren't in the Flash version, or any other port for that matter. The PSP has the forest, desert, and moon map packs, and you can imagine what each of them looks like. Their layouts are fine, nothing as good as the original Flash game's maps, and it's always nice to have more options for more playtime, but having 3 different maps that have the same background design isn't really that cool. Part of Bloons Tower Defense's charm is the different places the monkeys have to fight the balloons, so having the same background image behind different paths really doesn't do the game justice. In my opinion, they should have just had map packs that had 3 completely different maps, all with their own theme to really fit in with the series. Of course, this would have meant less maps, but I would have been all for that, considering how much the design of the background really contributes to the identity of the map. Speaking of stuff that's lame, the PSP version also doesn't have free play mode after beating the 50th round for whatever reason. The iOS port has it, so why was it cut for this version? Speaking of the iOS port, this version also has the song from that version that plays during gameplay, which sounds like this. If I didn't know any better, I'd say the song was made by Stuart Copeland. Considering his track record, I suppose it's possible. Anyways, the PSP port also allows the player to command their towers to target the closest or farthest balloons in their vicinity, when the Flash game only allowed for the towers to target either the first or last balloon. I'm not that great at this game, so I don't really know the full extent of how great this feature is when it comes to the gameplay strategies, but all I know is this feature is quite helpful when dealing with lead balloons with the missile launcher, so I can at the very least say, it can be useful. Finally, this game performs better than it does on the Flash platform. The Flash version has significant slowdowns during some of the later rounds, and has some slight hiccups throughout any playthrough, but the PSP port runs at a flawless 60 frames per second, so each run is smooth from start to finish. Overall, I'd say this is a good port of Bloons Tower Defense 3. The game runs great, most of the fun of the original game is still here, and the new maps are nice additions. For a simple port, it does its job. Well, that's about it for Bloons Tower Defense on the PSP, but I do want to talk about a few other things before I finish this video. First of all, the original Bloons game was also ported to the PSP, and it works alright. Since Bloons focuses on precision and accuracy, it only works so well when using the PSP's D-pad as opposed to a mouse. But I mean, it's a good port. I don't know how they could have messed this one up. Bloons was also ported to the DSi, and it works a lot better with the stylus than the PSP's gamepad, considering the player could be more accurate with the latter. Speaking of which, Bloons Tower Defense 3 was also ported to the DSi, and its gameplay is pretty close to what you expect it to be. Players select which tower they want by using the D-pad, then they place it by using the stylus on the bottom screen. Like the other ports, the DSi version also came with its own unique map packs. There's the Lava Pack, the Quatrail Pack, and the Underwater Pack. My thoughts about the PSP's map packs apply here, but I do want to say, the Underwater map's background image really doesn't fit with the aesthetic of Bloons. I mean, it looks very stock image-like, and not very cartoony like the rest of the backgrounds. So, there's 2 things that are not so good about this port. First, the visuals. The DSi isn't very strong, so the visuals are quite pixelated and don't look all that great. It's certainly the worst looking port, but I will say, it still has that same old charming colorful art style the series is known for, so I guess that's what matters most. Secondly, the frame rate. Again, due to the DSi's limitations, it struggles at certain points to maintain a solid frame rate, although I do believe it is better than the Flash version's hiccups. Flash slows down to like 35 frames or so at the worst. The DSi really only dips to 50 or so frames at its worst moments, so it's not that bad, but still, it'd be nice if it didn't struggle at all. Otherwise, it's not a bad port, it works fine, and it has just about everything from the original version, and some more. Bloons Tower Defense 4 was also ported to the DSi, and, well, this one isn't so good. First of all, the performance. The first 30 rounds or so are fine, but past that, oh man, are there some awful frame dips. The game will legitimately drop to a few frames a second, and it looks absolutely awful. And, by the way, this game has free play mode, so if you think the performance on screen doesn't look so great, imagine this game at round 100. Yeah, it's a frame rate nightmare. Moving on, the visuals don't look too great either, but I will say the animations are smoother this time, whenever the game isn't suffering from slowdowns, that is. Just like all the other Bloons ports, this version also has exclusive maps with their own unique designs and paths, so that was nice. Only if they weren't tied to this awful port though. One last thing, this version is missing the challenges, track editor, and Dartling Gunner from the Flash version, but the permanent upgrades are still here. Yeah, instead of buying them with Moshi coins on Ninja Kiwi's website, once players get enough gold medals, they can redeem them in order to get boosters to help them dispose of those gaseous goons. So, to wrap things up, it's nice to see this version had most of what was in the Flash version, and some more, but the terrible frame rate really makes this version not worth it at all. Okay, that's about all I had to say for these Bloons ports. It was pretty cool to examine how Bloons was changed in order to work with these handhelds, even if some downgrades had to be put in place. Have a good day, and make sure you upgrade your towers.